Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody is doing fantastic. Hope you're living well. Listen, I got something for you today in this conversation looking at abandonment and abandonment issues and how do we handle it, right? You or someone you love has been dealing with or has dealt with abandonment, right, at some point in their lives. And sometimes we just really don't know how to go about it, right? We don't know what to do. There's a lot of emotions involved, a lot of things that happen that we just really don't know what to do. And our best response sometimes, our only response we feel we have sometimes, is to bottle it up and just be what we would call a grown man or grown woman and deal with it ourselves. When essentially that's not the route to take. And so I just want to present this conversation to you today, just something for you to consider. And I do believe that if this is you or someone you know, this can be very helpful in many ways. So please like it up, comment, share these things. If this is you or somebody you love, I think this is going to be a really good and important conversation for us to share today. So let's look at the definition of abandonment just to get things started, right? So the definition of abandonment comes with feeling disconnected from other people. All right, that's just the bottom line, feeling disconnected from other people. But this also can be a variant of experiences an individual, or can vary from any experience an individual has, where they felt rejected, right? You felt rejected, you or someone you know felt rejected from someone they know that they really needed at a very dire time, a very needing time, and they just weren't anywhere to be found, right? When they needed them the most, when that individual needed someone the most, they left. They were nowhere to be found. You couldn't reach them. You couldn't get in contact with them. And it just seemed like they ghosted you, walked away from you, whatever the case may be, right? And so a lot of that is just the sum total of the definition of abandonment. And so let's look at what stems from it, right? What can stem, what can lead to abandonment? What are some issues, some causes, right? So first, it could be, right, from childhood loss, okay? Childhood loss, right? Maybe you lost a loved one, you lost someone that was really near and dear to your heart as a child, and you never really knew how to recover. So it was just a lot of weight on you, and you just kind of said, I'll deal with it, I'll handle it, I'm good, I'm tough, I got it. Childhood loss, right? That could be a result of the abandonment, or it could be parental pressures, right? Maybe you had parents, or someone you know who's dealing with these issues had parents who were always pressuring them to be perfect, right? You never really felt you had room to make a mistake. You were nervous and scared to make a mistake because you knew how your parents would react. You knew how your parents would handle it, right? Maybe it's them expecting so much from you that everything just never felt good enough for them. Nothing you did, no matter how much you did it, it was never good enough for them, right? What about maybe they treated you like you were one of their coworkers, you were one of their friends, right? They never really gave you that assurance that you were their child, that you belonged to them, that you were loved, that you were cared for. Instead, they just talked to you and treated you like you were their homeboy or homegirl or coworker, right? They just never really gave you that assurance that, as a child, should need, right? But also this stems from places that aren't necessarily specifically from childhood, but this could be something that you picked up in your teens right now, right? In your young adult life, where you've dealt with a lot of betraying of friends, right? You had a group of friends who y'all were close, y'all were tighter than a pair of drawers, and y'all just separated. Y'all weren't any good, y'all walked away, and something took place to where they felt like you weren't deserving of their time, of their attention. They just walked away, they separated themselves from you, and you don't really know why, right? And so a lot of these things can result in you questioning your self-worth, your self-image, who you are you worth a relationship, really questioning if there was anything on your end that you did, right? You kind of play a real second guessing kind of game that really just puts you in a mental box, and really troubles you in a lot of ways. So I want to share with you 3 attachment styles of abandonment, right? 3 attachment styles of abandonment that consist of avoidant, anxious, and disorganization. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Avoidant attachment style is just simply a version of abandonment that has you pushing everyone away, right? You're scared of the attention. You're scared of the love. You're scared to let people in, because if I don't have to let you in, then I don't have to see you go, kind of deal, right? You feel real neglectful of that love, of that attention, of that affection. You've never really had relationships like that. It's always made you feel like really weird and tingly inside, and you just don't know what to do with it, so you push it away. That's avoidant, right? You just push away. You push and push and push with the relationships that you desire to have, or maybe they wanted with you, you just didn't want it, right? It scared you, and put you in a position where you didn't really know what to do. Okay. Second is anxious, right? Anxious is kind of the opposite of avoidant, but in this sense that you've become completely dependent on that other person, right? Maybe this is you or someone you know. They couldn't even go to the bathroom for 2 minutes without them being upset, being anxious, right? Being very, very troubled by the fact that they felt, concerned or left, or didn't really know how to handle themselves because maybe you took a nap, right? Maybe that loved one, that significant other, went to sleep, or something of that sort, and they had to always have you around and depend on you for everything, right? That's really the anxious one, right? And especially to the point where any sign of argument, any sign of conflict was a concern that the other person was leaving, right? Something as small as not knowing what to eat for dinner, right? Maybe that person has that anxious and anxiety to where they feel that, man, if I argue with this person, they're probably going to leave. So let me just apologize. And I'm sorry, right? A lot of that's going on in the anxious attachment style. But then finally, there's the disorganization. So disorganization has a lot to do with inconsistencies, right? One moment you're here, the next moment you're not there, right? You might talk to them for a couple weeks, but then you go a span of months without talking to them, right? It's kind of like that inconsistency, teeter-totter. You aren't sure, you're kind of scared, but you're not scared. So there's an inconsistency of you kind of wanting it, but then you don't want it. So you go, but you back up, you go, but you back up. The inconsistencies of that attachment style, okay? So some symptoms, right? A lot of symptoms that can come from that, right? Maybe this is towards somebody who you know that is dealing with these abandonment issues, and you might not deal with it, but you're wanting to see some signs of someone else, right? So what are these signs consist of? Maybe I'm not dealing with it, but somebody else is dealing with it. Well, one, you can look for the constant reassurance, right? Oftentimes people that have dealt with abandonment issues need constant reassurance. They hated that feeling, and obviously who wouldn't, but they hated that feeling of being left, being abandoned, being treated as such. And for them to even consider a relationship, friendship, dating, romantic, anything like that, they need that constant reassurance that they aren't going to be left, that they are loved, that they are appreciated, that they are seen, that they are felt, acknowledged, all of that, right? Constant reassurance. Okay, maybe there's signs of them wanting to give things or please the other person too eagerly, right? Maybe if I want to give them everything I have, I want to give them, I have this eager want, right? Even though I've only known this person for a month, maybe I've only known this person for a week, maybe we just met, but I just have this eagerness to give them everything I want or everything they want. I just have this eager, right? And maybe that's a stem, right? Just to consider, right? It could be a stem from somebody else, right? Who walked in their life and they didn't give them what they wanted, so they left. And so that caused them to really reconsider a lot of things and say, hey, maybe I should give them a piece of my body, a piece of what they want or whatever they want, because I don't want to be alone and I want this person. So I'm just eager to give all of me, or I'm eager to give some of me. I'm eager to give anything to keep this person or please this person, right? That's a sign of a potential abandonment issue, right? Other symptoms such as cycling through relationships, sabotaging relationships, and remaining in unhealthy relationships, right? If you're someone who's cycling through relationships, you've been in a different relationship with a different person every week, every month, right? It's a lot of potential abandonment issues going on there. Maybe it's sabotaging, right? Remember how we talked about avoidant, that pushing away factor? Well, sabotage is just simply saying, hey, I wanted this relationship, but I'm going to leave, and I've predetermined that I'm going to leave this relationship before you get the chance to. So at least I'm not hurt. My feelings are secure. My insecurities are locked away, and I don't have to worry about you leaving because I'm gonna leave first. Right? So at least I'm not hurt. So I'm gonna continue being distant and fall away and push them out as far and as quick as I can before I'm the first one hurt. Right? That's sabotaging, right? It could be the great relationship, the best relationship you've had out of all the previous ones you've encountered, but because of those abandonment issues, you're quick to leave them first and decide to leave them first before they even get the opportunity to do anything of that sort, right? So we've talked about a sabotage, we've talked about all the other ones related to it, right? And then we have the ones where you're willing to stay in an unhealthy relationship, right? Those unhealthy relationships that you're remaining in because of the fear of being lonely, right? That fear that has really paralyzed you from removing from such an unhealthy relationship. So it outweighs the pain and the abuse physically, verbally, sexually that you are undergoing in this relationship. You would rather stay in it because you don't want to be alone. Right? So a lot of these symptoms, a lot of these struggles, a lot of these things that are going on, that really gives us an outline of abandonment issues. And I hope you're still with me, because now we're going to look at some applicable ways to help us really take a step out of or towards overcoming abandonment, right? So what are some things that we can do? Maybe we see somebody going through abandonment, maybe I myself, maybe you yourself are going through these abandonment issues. So what can I do to help overcome them? Okay. So one, we want to acknowledge the fears, acknowledge the struggle, acknowledge the fear of abandonment, right? We really want to acknowledge what is taking place in these moments, right? Really acknowledge how you're feeling when somebody leaves you. Really acknowledge that pain that you're feeling. Really acknowledge that, because that's the first step to take with overcoming this. Right? And a lot of acknowledging it stems into three different areas, right? So we're going to reflect, right? So we're really going to purpose to really reflect over what was shared, right? The experience that took place. Maybe you're talking to someone that's dealing with abandonment. And again, maybe you are dealing with the abandonment. It takes time to reflect over those things, really summarize what was shared, right? Be present, right? Be an active listener. Right? Being an active listener in those cases, to where we're really trying to help finally piece everything together, even the things that weren't really shared, even the things that weren't completely said. We need to be able to put ourselves in position as someone who's helping someone else with abandonment issues. Hey, let's be active listeners. Let's pay attention to what's shared, and let's piece together some things, right, that can help make a clearer view of what's being shared. Okay? Next, we really want to be able to be understanding, right? So a part of being present and all of that was just shared. We also want to be understanding, right? Let that person know that what they're dealing with, what they're going through, is understandable, and they aren't alone. Okay, like we opened up the video with, you and I have dealt with abandonment at some point in our lives. You know someone who has dealt with abandonment at some point in their lives. This is nothing new. But this is something to acknowledge and recognize, and to allow the other person to know that how they're feeling is understandable and they aren't alone. Okay? We really want to get to a place where, if the emotions are high, right? We really want to check our emotions. Okay? That's really the last thing we really want to do. Again, helping someone with abandonment, or maybe you are dealing with abandonment. And if you are dealing with abandonment, please find a trusted friend. I encourage you to go find a trusted friend. Go have a conversation with someone who is willing, who is an active listener, who is wanting to listen to you, who is wanting to help you, who is wanting to encourage you in these steps, because this is going to really help you in these moments of feeling abandoned and really looking to overcome these deepened abandonment issues. But in the moments where the conversation is kind of getting intense, right? A lot of those conversations can get intense fast. So what we want to do is, maybe if it's getting intense fast, take a step away, right? Hey, listen, this is a good conversation. Emotions are kind of running high right now, right? So I'm going to step away for just a minute. And in the action of you stepping away, right? In the action of you stepping away from the conversation, to those who are wrestling with these issues, you have to let them know where you're going, when you'll come back, and what you're doing while you're gone. Right? Let them know, okay, hey, I'm gonna step away for just 30 minutes. I'm gonna go grab me a bite to eat. I'll be back in 30. We'll continue this conversation. Something that light, something that quick, that will really help them, even in that moment, be assured that, hey, this person isn't walking out of my life because I said something wrong, or walked out and walked away, is done with the conversation, is done with me. Oh my God, it's over, right? We're going to really just assure them in love and in kindness, hey, this conversation is kind of getting high. Let's walk away. I'll come back here in like 30 minutes. I'm gonna grab something to eat. We'll continue this conversation. Okay, so I hope you guys grasp just a little bit of that. Okay, so we're gonna really end this video with looking at, what does God have to say about abandonment, right? Abandonment issues are something that everyone in reality at some point has or knows someone who has dealt with. So God obviously has something to say about this, right? And you're absolutely right, he does. And the first thing I want you to know is that he understands. Jesus understands the feelings and that you have, the frustrations that you have, the tears that roll down your face from being abandoned by others, the struggle, the frustration, the lack of clarity that you have been left in a pool of from being abandoned. Okay, so God isn't looking at you like this is brand new. He doesn't know what to do. No, God knows exactly what to do because he understands. How can we say that God understands? Because Jesus was even abandoned, right? I'm going to give you some examples of those people who were abandoned even in scripture, right? I'm going to first start with Jesus since I just mentioned him, right? Jesus was headed to the cross during crucifixion. Check out Matthew 26, verse 47 through 56. We read of him being, after he's finished his prayer, the guards of Rome are coming to capture Jesus, to come and arrest Jesus. And as scripture tells us, they approach him like thieves, like a thief and a robber. And as they're doing so, right, we see the disciples who are on guard, right, ready to fight against the Roman prisoners. But Jesus says, no, let them go, let them take me. And so he allows the Roman prisoners to take him, right? We see one disciple who pulls out a sword, cuts off the ear of the Roman guard. But Jesus says, hey, those who live by the sword will die by the sword, right? And so after that occasion happens, the disciples flee from the scene. Now, wait a minute. This is during Jesus' crucifixion. Jesus is about to go to the cross, hang, bleed, and die. Like, Jesus is in his most dire need of support at the time he needs someone the most. And even those who followed him, his disciples, those who ate with him, talked with him, conversed with him, who have been on this 3-year ministry journey with him every step of the way. They've seen miracles, they've seen healings, they've witnessed his teachings, and yet they abandoned him. So Jesus understands. What about David? David and Ahithophel. David, who was a king, and Ahithophel, who was his best friend, right? And David comes back around and mentions the atrocity that took place to him as Ahithophel takes part in stealing the hearts of Israel away from David. David is left fleeing to another place with the Ark of the Covenant, and he is just in awe at what's taking place. And Psalm chapter 41, we see him revisit this atrocity that took place to him. David said, if it was an enemy, I would have seen it coming from a mile away. I would have been prepared. He said, if this was somebody I might have been a little iffy about, I would have been prepared. He said, but no, it was you, Ahithophel. It was you who I broke bread with. It was you who we grew in God together. We went to the house of prayer together. We did so much together. You know me, I know you. Not just know you as a surface, but he says, I know you. We learned together. We grew together. And this is what you do? You just leave me like this, hanging out to dry? Like, what is this? And David is extremely hurt, extremely struggling with this abandonment that he feels from Ahithophel. David understands the abandonment through Ahithophel, right? But finally, I want to take you to Joshua. Joshua can understand a taste of this abandonment too. Remember how we mentioned how it could be childhood loss, right? Well, Joshua wasn't necessarily in his childhood, but Joshua was being led by Moses out from Egypt, right? Moses has led the children of Israel out of Egypt. He has led them. They are on their way to the promised land. And Moses has revealed that he's not going to make it. Moses says his body can't go. He's not able to go. And it is his time, right, to now move on, not from Israel, but I mean, move on from time to eternity. Like Moses was about to die. And Joshua was given the reins to lead Israel to the promised land flowing with milk and honey. But Joshua was concerned. I'm new to this game. What am I going to do? Moses is gone. Moses has been leading us all this time. Like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? So the abandonment that he felt when Moses left, when Moses died, when Moses couldn't no longer go with them to the promised land. But this is what God reminds Joshua of Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. He tells him, essentially, I'm going to paraphrase here, but you look up the scripture yourself. He essentially tells him, I will never leave you nor forsake you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. Psalm 27:10 says, when my father and mother both forsook me, the Lord took me in. So not only does God understand, but God is always with you. Even those who walk out of your life, even those who come in and out of your life, the abandonment issues that you may be feeling, the struggles of abandonment that you may be dealing with, God understands. God sees you, and God wants to take you in. When everyone else said no, God said yes. When everyone else rejected, Jesus says, I want him. Jesus says, I want her. Jesus says he is able to take you in and do things with you that the people that rejected you could never even imagine to do with you. Jesus wants to bring you in. Jesus can take you in because Jesus says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And just as a tipping point to this, those people who leave out of your life were never designed to dictate the remainder of your life. So don't allow them to take the keys to your freedom. This abandonment hurts, it's a struggle, and it sucks. And it's a lot of pain. But understand that with Jesus, his ability, capability, and wanting you, he wants you, he wants your heart, and he wants to take you in. Even when your mother and father forsook you, even when your friends and family forsook you, even when those who were closest to you at one point forsook you, Jesus says, I want you. And Jesus can take that suffering, can take that pain, waddle it up, and mean it for your good. Because what the enemy tried to use to destroy you, God can take it and make it and mean it for your good. You aren't alone in your abandonment. You aren't alone in your abandonment issues. And I hope and pray that this video was of some help, some resource to you to start overcoming, to start seeking Christ and overcoming this place of abandonment, because even he understands the tears and sorrow, the pain and struggles that you're feeling, but he also wants to help you overcome. And he simply wants to welcome you in, because even when everyone else leaves, Jesus is always near, is always with you, because he promises to never leave you nor forsake you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I pray that this video was of help to you. If it was, let me know in the comments. Please share, like, do whatever it is that you need to do with it, because this is something that I feel is going to help out you and others around you that are dealing with abandonment issues. Can't wait to see you soon, but until then, peace.